Everybody, it's Zach. Welcome back to the Heroverse. And guys, I just got done with Stargirl Season 3, Episode 8, called Infinity Inc. Part 2. And guys, of course, this is the continuation. I like how we're kind of in a new chapter of the story of Stargirl. It's called Infinity Inc. And I said in my, pre-show live, it reminds me of, a Mystery Inc., of course, of Scooby-Doo and shit. So it kind of reminds me of that. This was an okay episode. I really wasn't that excited about this episode because we were back in the Shadowlands. I was kind of it feels very they're doing rinse and repeat. They're doing the same thing that they did last season with Eclipso. I didn't really want it to be that thing, but the thing I really did like about this episode is it gave us some more information on Pat, in his backstory, and it gave us some more information on, the Shade. And what they need to know to go forward in their lives. It was really great character development, for us to know about the characters some more, but also where they're going to be going next in their character arcs. So I actually didn't mind them being in the Shadowlands, and it gave Courtney and it gave Jenny some time in the standpoint of, they're in the Shadowlands in this episode, and Jenny and of course Courtney are upstairs in the same room as Todd's in. And I guess they tried Courtney and Jenny try to calm down Todd, but I guess it doesn't work to the point of that he makes this, Jenny I guess tries going towards him again, or he just, but it was a burst of light. And at that point, they both get knocked out. Jenny's in one room, Courtney's in the other room, and pretty much, Jenny is trying to, break out of the room with the lantern ring. It doesn't work because we hear Mr. Bones on the intercom say, look, we made this room specifically so that way you couldn't break out of this room. You know what I mean? And, and pretty much this room is built for you not to break out of here. And, you need to stay in this room or whatever. And pretty much, I was okay, she can't get out of there, because I knew right away when she was touching the wall and seeing what it was, I was she's probably not going to be able to break out of there because the walls are made out of something. And that's what Mr. Med says, this room is specifically made so you can't burn it down and you can't do any harm in this room. And you know what I mean? And that's pretty much it. And, Jenny wants to get out. Courtney's in Nurse Love's room, which that's the name of the girl that I guess owns the facility. The facility is called Helix, and I think Helix is a big thing in the DC comics. I'm not quite sure. That's a very deep cut that I'm not even really familiar with. But Nurse Love I guess is in charge of Helix with Mr. Bones. And essentially, we get a whole big thing where Courtney's locked in Nurse Love's office. We have Jenny locked in a cell, and we see 4 different other people in cells, which I'm not sure who they are. Probably people that read the comic books would know who they are. It kind of went past really fast of who was in those rooms. So I'm not quite sure. Maybe just some new characters that of some other DC characters that I'm not very familiar with, or maybe I just didn't catch it enough to maybe know who they were, because it just went past very fast. So I'm wondering if they will be I kind of already have an understanding of where they're probably going to go with this, because they kind of have explained it at the end of who all these other characters that we kind of don't get introduced to, but we see them, what those characters could be doing. And I have some questions about that towards the end. But Courtney of course is asking on looking up at the camera, finds out that somebody's looking at the camera, or actually no, I guess Nurse Love ends up coming in and says to Courtney oh, you came at the wrong time, you ruined a really important procedure. And pretty much tried to tell Courtney, look, I'm sorry that we lied to you, or I'm sorry that I lied to you, but, Jenny and Todd cannot be together because, this procedure needed to happen because Todd cannot control his powers. It's not like Jenny where, she gets angry and, burns down buildings by mistake. Todd literally cannot control his shadows and can literally consume the world and could kill us all and destroy the world. That's why we needed to have this procedure done. But now the fact that you brought Jenny here, it made it 10 times more worse and dangerous that, Jenny, and him they're close together. And I think that and pretty much their thoughts is, and their theory is that Jenny and Todd cannot be together because it's too dangerous and it's unstable, Todd, right now. And to have Jenny here while Todd's trying to, get stable is very dangerous. So, and pretty much, Courtney, gets that information, and pretty much, pretty much Courtney, I guess, ends up like Courtney's explaining, saying, "Look, I can't leave here, and even though you're telling me Jenny's in one room or whatever, trying to stay away from Todd, and and you're gonna keep Todd and try to do that procedure, I can't leave because my loved one is inside the Shadowlands. I can't leave. Pat's in the Shadowlands, and Shade's in the Shadowlands." And then she's pretty much explaining to Nurse Love what the Shadowlands are, saying like that's exactly what Todd is made out of. He's made out of a shadow and connected to where the Shade gets his abilities, and that's exactly where Pat and Shade are, and that could be some information on on why Todd's acting the way he's acting. You know what I mean? Like that's where they are. I'm not going to leave here without them until this gets solved. And pretty much that's when Nurse Love locks her in the door. And then that's when Courtney sees the camera up top and starts talking to the camera, talking to like, "Oh, you're the one that keeps spying on us," or whatever. You're like, "Oh," and this and that. And then that's when Mr. Bones says to Courtney, when Courtney's like, "You don't know who you're messing with. My teammates are gonna come for me." And that's when Mr. Bones is like, "Look, Todd is going through this procedure. He's not like Wildcat, Yolanda, or or he's not like Yolanda when Yolanda could put away the claws in the suit." Todd isn't like, Todd, and we're pretty much talking about Todd and Jenny, saying that, Todd and Jenny aren't like Yolanda where she gets to put away the claws, or like Rick that gets to put away the hourglass, or like you that gets to put away the staff, or like Beth gets to put away the goggles. Like they are two dangerous there are two special people that cannot just turn off their abilities and just walk away or whatever. Like they need to be here, and Todd needs to go through this procedure. And right away I was thinking to myself, he does not sound like a villain. What the hell's going on? And we get an introduction to Mr. Bones meeting Courtney, and pretty much telling Courtney all this and explaining to Courtney that this helix is a special place to protect people, but also protect the people that are here from other people, from hurting people, and saying that my mother was experimented on. That's what Mr. Bones said. Like he says his backstory was like, my mother was experimented on, and I ended up pretty much having this ability where like I kill people just by me touching them. And that's what Austin, I forget who said it. It was either Austin that said it or somebody else said it in the comments, saying that that's what they think is Mr. Bones' ability, is that if he touches somebody, he kills somebody. And that's exactly his ability. He has this this ability of when he touches people, he kills them. And he said that the way he looks is because of all the experiments that somebody did on his mother. So that's why Nurse Joy pretty much and he's the one that killed his mother, and that's why Nurse Joy kind of like took him into Helix, and pretty much just they both went on this journey to like get people that have these abilities so they have a safe place for them, but also they're protecting other people from the outside world as well. And that's when we kind of have an understanding that Mr. Bones is not a bad guy. From what I can tell, I was like, he's not the bad guy of the season. I'm confused because I thought he was the villain of the season. So, and we end up finding out that he's not the one spying on people by the end of this episode. That's what Nurse Joy said, is that we're not the ones spying on you with these cameras. It's not us. Just because we had cameras in here doesn't mean we're the ones spying on you. And just because we know your identities of the JSA does not mean that we, again, are spying on you. We just did our research. And pretty much, while Pat and Shade are in the Shadowlands, they have, they come across Shadowland Raves, which are these beings that like look like their loved ones, but are pretty much are preying on their fears and on their thoughts, and pretty much that's when Pat encounters his father, and we end up finding out that Pat's father, like I guess just hated his son because his son pushed his wife away from him, because I guess Pat's father was too harsh on Pat. So Pat's mother, aka Pat's father's wife, pushed, like I guess there was some distance, like it split them up, where like Pat's mother wanted to did not like what Pat's father, like how Pat's father was acting towards Pat. So it's kind of like he was angry at Pat for making his wife not like him anymore, essentially. And that's when Shade's like, no, it's not your father speaking, this is the Shadowland Raves that are saying this. And then Pat's like, no, this is my father, this is something my father would say, where he's like, he's disappointed, he's disappointed me or he's disappointed of me, and he wishes that I wasn't his son or whatever, like all that stuff. Like this is something my father would say, where like he was ashamed of me, he was disappointed at me, and all that. And I was like, damn, like that's why Pat really never talks about his father. Like we're getting so much information right now. And of course, for Shade, he never got to say goodbye to his sister, and that's one thing that Rave was looked like his sister and said like, oh, like don't leave me, like our father left me, like stay, you know what I mean, like stay, and you know what I mean, and don't you want to say goodbye? And that's the one thing he never got to say. And it was just so interesting to see Shade, tell Pat like, the reason I didn't stay to say goodbye to my sister and I wasn't there is because it's hard for me to lose loved ones. It's really hard for me, and that's why he was never there. So it's so interesting to see that Shade actually has these emotions. He's not just somebody that's just a villain. He actually, there's a reason, you know what I mean? He's that's pretty much what the season's about, is that these villains aren't just villains. They have feelings. They're just like everybody else. You know what I mean? But it's the things that led them to become villains and stuff like that. So it's just very interesting that we're really seeing so many, like seeing who Shade is and why Shade acts the way he acts. It puts like a guard up, is because he doesn't like loss. That's why he doesn't like want to make friends. That's why he doesn't want to like, do like, you know what I mean? That's why he just doesn't want to make friends and doesn't want to care about people, because he doesn't like loss. So it's just very interesting to see them come across their fears, and them needing to face their fears. Like Pat needed to face his father, and Shade needed to face his sister, but we never really got to see Shade face his sister and say goodbye to his sister. But he even admitted to himself in a way, he faced his fears and saying, I should have said goodbye to my sister, but I was afraid of loss and losing my loved ones. That's why I didn't do it. And then, for Pat, having that other interaction with, Barb, a Shadow Rave, Barb was there in the Shadowlands, and the Shadowlands, like his father was there again too, and they were and we were back in Pat's house, and we had Pat's father say like, look at Mike, you know what I mean? Like Mike's gonna resent you, like, or like resent you like you resented me, like whatever, like you didn't like, Mike's gonna hate you like you hated me. And then that's when Mike's like Shadowland, Mike's like, yeah, I'm gonna hate you, or I'm gonna hate you like you hated your father. And then Pat's like, I never hated my father, Mike, like I never did, like I never hated him. Which makes me wonder what was up between Pat and his father, other than his father being angry at Pat, because Pat was the reason that Pat's father's wife kind of like didn't want anything to do with him anymore, and was kind of just sided with Pat and the way Pat's father was treating him. So it's kind of like, I don't know, it's like, how did Pat feel about his father? We don't really know about that yet, except Pat said he never hated his father. So like, what is it that a Shadow Rave would take the form of his father? Like what was the Shadow Rave trying to show Pat? You know what I mean? What he needed to face. Like, what was the thing that Pat needed to face? I'm not quite sure. We never really got that, sense of like he faced anything really, other than the fact that when Mike says, I'm going to hate you like you hated your father, and then he's like, Mike, I never hated my father. I never did. So it's like, I'm wondering what is that thing that Pat needs to face, and you know what I mean? And we kind of already have the thing that, Shade needs to face, because once they get out of the Shadowlands, when, Jenny, Courtney kind of convinces Jenny that, like, look, don't run from your brother, you know what I mean? Don't, like, you're not going to hurt him if you don't want to hurt him. Like, you know what I mean? Show him that you're there, and you're there for him, and you guys won't split up anymore, and you guys will be there together. And, that was a very cool moment when, she's like, we see the Kim turn into full shadow form and says, like, get out of here. And we see Jenny say, I'm not going to leave you again. And, we get back into the same room. And it's the same room that, they split up. It's the same room where they got split up. And we see, them together standing there. And then we get to the moment where, like, Jenny is putting out a ring saying it's light in the dark together. Like, well, let's be in the dark together. Let's be light and dark together. And that was very interesting, because we see young Jenny and young Todd run towards each other to hug. And then we get older Todd and Jenny hugging. And pretty much, now the darkness is out of the light. So we have no longer, the darkness is no longer, well, I guess the Shadowlands and the Lantern are no longer merged together, but in a way they are together. Jenny and Todd, they are one and the same. They are kind of like a yin and yang, but they are together, and they're going to be fighting things together. So that's very cool, but we don't really know why Todd is involved, like has shadow abilities. Even Shade was asking that question when it was Pat and Shade in the Shadowlands in the beginning. He's like, I don't know why that Jenny has the powers of her father, but Todd doesn't have the same powers. He has shade. He has darkness abilities. He was like, I'm confused by that. So I'm wondering if maybe Shade helping, kind of like trying to like do good, not just him not hurting anybody, but like Pat's like, if you want to do good, you know what I mean. You know what I mean. Like you have a lot to make up for. You have a lot. You have a lot of things that you regret. Like having a hand on making these kids orphans. And then Shade's like, I never killed anybody. He's like, well, you were an accomplice, you were a part of it, so this is your way of of doing good and helping Todd control his abilities. And they are literally, that's when Jenny said like, he's like, Shade's like trying to say, look, is there any, like trying to say, can I help you, like offer his help. And then Todd's like, yeah, of course, I would love your help. And of course Jenny's like, look, before we have to go to New York because we have to go get I forget what the kid's name. It's the nephew of the Sandman. I think his name was I forget what it was. It was like, let me know down in the comments below. But they're going to get the Sandman's nephew, because the Sandman's nephew helped Jenny find Todd, and it was one of Sandman's nephew's nightmares that helped Jenny find Todd. So I'm interested to see this team being built up, because now that Jenny and Todd and Shade are going to get the Sandman's nephew, and and earlier in the episode we saw a whole bunch of other people in a whole bunch of other people in cells. That's at the end of this episode. Courtney's conversation with Mr. Bones kind of made Mr. Bones say to Nurse Love, saying maybe Courtney's right or whatever. Maybe instead of us hiding everybody, maybe they do need to go out and do some good or whatever. Maybe we should start our own team. Or, you know what I mean? And I'm thinking to myself, what kind of team is this going to be? Is this going to be like a new Injustice Society, or is this going to be a team I personally don't know, because it's called the Helix? And I don't know if Helix in the DC comics, they have a group, and maybe, I don't know if it's like going to be like a kind of like an anti-hero group, or I'm not quite sure. So that's what I'm wondering down in the comments below. Let me guys know if you guys know what Helix is and what kind of group they're going to be starting. I thought instantly, could it be Injustice Society, like a new Injustice Society? Could that be? But I don't think that's the case, because clearly I don't think Mr. Bones is a villain. Maybe he is in the comics if he is a comic villain, but as of right now, I don't. They're making it sound like he's not a villain, and what they're doing is good, and they're trying to keep people safe in this Helix Center and trying to help people control their abilities, and don't want them to hurt anybody else. That's why they're keeping in there, and they're not even like forcing them to stay there. It's not like a prison. They get to leave whenever they want to. They're just there to help them control their abilities. And Todd even like backed up Nurse Joy, saying like, no, Courtney, this is actually, I'm allowed to leave whenever I want to. I was here to just control my abilities. And that kind of raises the question, what kind of a group are they going to like start? That's the question. I'm really curious to know. And also, maybe the thing that Pat needs to, confront and face his fear is maybe about what the Shadowlands, Pat's father said, where he said like, look, you're kind of like, not paying attention to Mike, and that's why he connects to so much to Courtney, is because no one, like, feels like no one wants him and all that stuff. And I mean, like, he feels that's why he connects to Courtney so much. And it's like, yeah, like, no one, Courtney's father didn't want her, but Courtney found a new father within Pat and also within Sylvester. But who's going to be there for Mike? Because yeah, Mike's mother left, as we found out. And Pat, swooped him up, left whatever town that they were in, and thought that Mike would forget about his mother. But apparently Shadowlands, Pat's father, said that Mike thinks about his mother all the time, and thinks that, thinks that how she didn't want him, and now that he feels alone, and feels like, he feels like just, abandoned, and how like he feels like you're abandoning him, and he feels like, and that's why he just, relates to Courtney so much. And we see that in the story, and we've seen that Pat's kind of not acknowledging Mike, and while Mike is over here trying to get respect and trying to catch the killer, to get respect from the team and get respect from his father, and earn the respect of the team, and he just wants respect, and he wants to show people that he's not just a kid and he can help out. And it feels like Mike's been out of the loop and not being paid attention to since season 1. And it's crazy, because I'm wondering if now Pat's realized this, because me as a viewer, I've noticed this. That's why I thought last season that Cindy was going to recruit him, and that's why I thought Mike was going to join, because Pat wasn't letting him be a part of the JSA, and Pat wasn't paying attention to him. And I mean, and all the JSA members thought that, oh no, Mike, you're just a kid, you can't help out, oh, like, you go over there. So I'm wondering, like, what's this gonna do? Like, I'm wondering if Pat will have that conversation with Mike, and Mike will finally say, look, I actually did feel like this. I felt like, you didn't care. You know what I mean? I felt like, that's why I'm over here trying to start my own team, to get respect from you and show you that I can help, and I'm not just here to mess things up. You know what I mean? I feel like, and it's crazy because Pat hated feeling that way of, like, when he tried helping his father would just say, you're just screwing things up, and his father would be so hard on him. And it's kind of like Pat's doing the same thing, where it's like he wants Mike to not even be involved in things, and he's kind of ignoring Mike. And while Mike's trying to get the respect and trying to start his own team, it's like I'm loving what we're doing here, and I'm excited to see the conversation between Pat and Mike. It's going to be a very interesting conversation, because I think now Pat realizes, oh shit, maybe I haven't been paying attention to my kid, and I need to have that conversation with him. I'm hoping we have that conversation, because it is true. I'm seeing it as a viewer that it feels like what Shadowlands Pat's father was saying. But honestly, though, it was a pretty damn good episode. I wouldn't say it was the best episode, but I did like this episode. It was a really good episode. But I'm really curious to know down in the comments below, what did you guys think about this episode? Again, there wasn't a lot going on between a lot of character development between Pat and Shade. There was a lot of character development there. And also, of course, us seeing those people, those other, people in the cells. So it makes me wonder, like, did you guys recognize any of the people that were in the cells? And do you guys know what kind of group that Helix is going to be starting up? Let me know, and let me know. I'm super excited for next week's episode. Like, next week's episode is going to be so freaking peak. This is the episode that is the picture of Rick and Cameron, how they're all bloodied up in that photo, and they look like they just fought. This is that episode, because I'm going to play the promo right now.
I want to tell Cameron everything. About the JSA, about his father, about me being Stargirl.
I warned you!
Rick, stop!
Guys, holy shit. Did you see Rick pick up Cameron? That fight's about to be badass. I'm so excited for next week's episode. This is it. I think this is also might squish the beef maybe between Cameron and Rick now that this fight happens. Maybe because Courtney's going to tell Cameron about everything. And I'm like, that's a terrible idea. This is not going to go well. And I'm excited. I hope the beef stays. I'm hoping he starts up the Injustice Society. I'm praying, because I need an Injustice Society part 2. I need that. I need a team. I need someone to go up against the new JSA. I need to be a new Injustice Society versus the new JSA team. I need it so much. So I'm hoping this like sparks up Cameron realizing like, no, I want to become a villain. Like, I'm hoping, because I want it so bad. I want a new Injustice Society team. And I'm thinking maybe them saying, oh, maybe we should start a team of our own. Who's to say Cameron won't go on recruiting and maybe go there, and maybe Mr. Buns is the leader of that new team, something like that. I don't know. Maybe like behind the scenes, like, oh, is the main leader and is telling the kids what to do on whatever they're gonna, like, assignments that they're going to be doing. But who's to say that the leader of the team on the ground is Cameron? And they give themselves the new name of the Injustice Society, or who knows. I'm just excited to see next week's episode. Next week's episode's about to go freaking insane. I'm really curious to know, yet again, what did you guys think about this episode? Was it one of your favorite episodes? Was it an okay episode? Did you guys not like this episode? Let me know what your favorite part about this episode is. And also let me know if you guys know anything about, again, those people in the cells. Did you catch any names? Do you know who they are from the comics? Do you know what Helix groups, what team they start up? Like, let me know down in the comments below. But guys, yet again, that was the video. I hope everybody has a great day, a safe day, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.